Despite multiple calls and prior bite incidents, 3 pit bulls escaped their owner's fence on May 27, 2023. Neighbors were then left asking local authorities, why wasn't anything done about these aggressive dogs before this happened?
An 81-year-old man is dead and a woman fighting for her life at University Hospital after being mauled by a pack of dogs on the west side.
The animals are responsible for not only her critical injuries, but also the injuries of multiple people, including a firefighter. News 4 San Antonio's Amanda Henderson joins us now with what neighbors are saying. Amanda?
Jonathan, you can imagine they're devastated and they're stunned. Like you said, that woman is fighting for her life right behind me here at University Hospital. Those dogs responsible for the attack today, they're being put down tonight, and their owners face multiple charges according to officials. And as you mentioned, neighbors say that this isn't the first time these dogs have been aggressive towards them. And while we do have video of the attack, we are not airing any portion of it, that it is graphic out of respect for the people involved. Neighbors in this West Side neighborhood are left terrified after a fatal dog attack.
What's it going to take next? We have a lot of elderly people and dogs and kids walk our neighborhoods all the time, and just for them to get bit for doing nothing.
Deborah Flores lives the street over from where at least 2 dogs killed an 81-year-old man and injured 3 others. Officials say the dogs broke out of a front gate. Flores says those same dogs are seen here on her surveillance camera about a month ago. City officials confirm at least 2 of the dogs were involved in that case in January and in another case in September 2021.
Their dogs used to jump my fence from the back alley, and I had told them, like, hey, your dogs are jumping my fence, and he would say, oh, I'm sorry.
Shannon Sims with Animal Care Services says there have been calls about the dogs over the past 2 years, and he explains why they weren't removed.
Those bites were mild. So those animals finished their state-required quarantine, and the owner paid reclaim fees, and by state law, we were required to return those animals.
The West Side neighborhood is in Terry Castillo's district. The District 5 councilwoman says tragedies like this serve as a reminder that we must adequately invest in animal care services. Some neighbors say they can't afford to wait.
I want to do something, change the laws so that these types of animals have some type of restrictions.
Sylvia Hernandez says she's previously called 311 or 911 because of the dogs. She adds her son has also previously been attacked by the dogs.
I don't know what. If you see the video I have, it was terrible being there and not being able to do anything.
One thing everyone in this neighborhood wants is accountability.
Just take responsibility. Take responsibility. Your dog's killed somebody, and the other lady I heard is in critical condition.
And again, she is fighting for her life tonight inside University Hospital. And as we understand it, there is a team in that West Side neighborhood of city officials that will provide counseling and other services as needed. And they're also going to go through the 311 and 911 calls that were made in that West Side neighborhood that relate to those animals.
After the deadly dog attack on an 81-year-old San Antonio man, nearby neighbors don't want these kind of dogs in the city.
And somehow they came in here and they killed our bunnies.
George, who wished to remain anonymous, does not want anything to do with those breed of dogs, but a local state representative believes it falls on the dog owners.
The reason that I filed HB 1653 is because I have some seniors in my district that had a problem with some dogs.
Representative Liz Campos says this hits home. She found her neighbor injured by a dog attack, prompting Campos to make sure something is done on the state level.
My bill is going back to the owners, holding them accountable. I think we need to maybe increase the penalty, especially if there's a record of your dogs, being mischievous and being loose and attacking people, because obviously there's been a lot going on in that neighborhood.
The Friday attack left a 74-year-old woman injured, as well as injuring 3 other people, including an SAFD captain. 31-year-old Christian Alexander Moreno is the owner of 2 dogs. He has been arrested. According to the affidavit released late this afternoon, Moreno's dogs have attacked other people in the neighborhood before. All 3 dogs have since been euthanized. Now, Representative Campos' bill would increase the criminal penalty from a Class C to Class B misdemeanor. She says she will honor the victim's family by pushing hard to make sure this bill is passed.
Tonight, we are learning more about the victims of that deadly dog attack on the city's southwest side. The family of Ramon and Janie Najera starting this verified GoFundMe account for their grandparents. 81-year-old Ramon, described as a San Antonio native and U.S. Air Force veteran, was killed last Friday after being attacked by dogs that got loose from their yard. 74-year-old Janie was gravely injured but survived.
Our cameras were there today as family members remembered their loved ones. Neighbors say this attack could have been prevented. News 4 troubleshooter Jordan Elder combed through the calls for service in this area, and she joins us with those findings.
Family members were visibly emotional today as they set up this memorial for their father and grandfather killed in a dog attack on Friday. Neighbors in the area tell us they've been calling the city about this for months and even years. City records back that up.
It's really frustrating, and that this man had to pay his life for that, on account of the city not taking action.
This is Belinda Rodriguez. She says she's called the city more than a dozen times about the dogs involved in Friday's mauling. Officials with Animal Care Services confirmed the dogs were also involved in 2 other biting cases, as well as several other reports. All 3 dogs involved in the mauling have been euthanized. We combed through 311 records and found that many of these cases are still open.
Some of those cases, either we've had an officer out and there's an open investigation that continues, and then others of those that have been dispatched have not had an officer to the location yet.
ACS Director Shannon Sims says you have to complete an affidavit in order to move forward with significant bite investigations.
When we seek that affidavit, what we find is a lot of times folks are either afraid of their neighbor, they don't want to stir up drama within their neighborhood, and so they decline to fill out the actual affidavit to initiate that process.
Sims says staffing is a concern in these cases too.
You're talking about 16 to 17,000 calls for service a year just in that particular category, not even including bites. And we have, roughly 40 officers to include our investigators to knock out 87,000 calls for service in a year.
We did the math for you. That would mean each officer would have to answer more than 6 calls every day plus paperwork, and that is including weekends.
First and foremost, the most important part is to the family, to say that we're sorry. It was heartbreaking to see the whole incident go down. It was traumatizing to me and my husband. I know my husband especially, but it wasn't nothing we ever intended to ever happen to anybody. We're sorry. We're greatly sorry, and we have done everything we can to prevent anything like this from ever happening to anybody. My dogs they weren't aggressive dogs. They weren't mean. My husband isn't this monster that everybody's making him out to be. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He loves his dogs. We all did, but we never knew that neutering them would do this to them.
And we have new information this morning on the investigation into that deadly dog attack on Friday. Police have announced they have made a second arrest in the case. Abilene Schneider, who spoke with us earlier this week, the wife of Christian Moreno, who is already in jail on the same charges, was arrested and charged with 1 count of an attack by a dangerous dog resulting in death and injury to an elderly person. Police say she was arrested on new evidence establishing she shared ownership of the dogs. 81-year-old Ramon Najera died in that dog attack. His wife, along with 2 other men, were also injured. Third person has been arrested in connection with the deadly dog attack on the west side last month. Destiny Marie Cardona was arrested for retaliation against a witness to the attack, according to police records. Cardona is the sister to Abilene Schneider. The victim told police Cardona has threatened them multiple times after they talked to police on the day of the deadly attack.
Today marks 2 weeks since 81-year-old Ramon Najera was killed in that dog attack on the southwest side. His wife and 2 others injured. Now we've learned his funeral arrangements have been finalized. The community has really rallied around this family, so much so they've stopped accepting donations on their GoFundMe page. They made that call after receiving more than $25,000. In a new post, the family says they are taking care of their grandmother, his wife, who wants everyone to know she is grateful for the continued support. Her late husband will be buried at Fort Sam Houston National Cemetery next Thursday. The U.S. Air Force veteran is survived by his wife, their grandchildren, their children, and 14 great-grandchildren.
A new bill has been filed to deal with dangerous dogs, specifically to hold dog owners, even animal control, accountable. News 4 San Antonio's Chelsea Torres talked to the state representative who filed the bill and how it could affect any potential victims of dog attacks.
Just don't forget, it's painful.
For 50 years, Janie, who doesn't want to show her face, has walked everywhere. But 5 years ago, a vicious dog attack would traumatize her.
When he dropped me to the ground where my feet went up, he grabbed my leg and he took a good hunk bite and he stayed there. He wouldn't let go.
Janie says the dog, a pit bull, bit to the bone. That was just one incident. A year ago, Janie faced another dangerous dog near her home. No open wounds, but says she's scared walking the neighborhood.
You're always cautious every time there's a loose dog.
Janie's experience in the deadly dog attack killing 81-year-old Ramon Najera has prompted one local representative to take action. This week, Representative Liz Campos filed another bill holding dog owners and animal care services accountable in dog attacks.
ACS, they need to do a little bit more, and if they know of an aggressive dog, they need to report it immediately. They need to make sure that the owners know that it's a serious offense, and we need to put it out there.
In Campos's proposed House Bill 4759, if a dangerous dog is reported, ACS must investigate without a victim's affidavit. There's also a new description of dangerous dog involving unprovoked attacks. And if a dog owner has history with dangerous dogs, their criminal offense is now a third-degree felony.
How confident are you in that this bill can actually get passed?
Well, I already started working on it this past week and talking to different legislators, and it's just a matter of really working it hard and sharing the story, which I'm going to share.
Representative Campos is encouraging anyone to reach out to her that has been in a similar situation with a dangerous dog. She's hoping to gather people to testify in front of the committee and hoping of getting this bill passed.
San Antonio city leaders want to crack down on dangerous dog owners.
It's long overdue, but people that have these dogs, they need to have strict rules and regulations.
Doris Mixon-Smith survived a dog attack 6 years ago. She lost part of her arm and suffered facial injuries.
And when I looked up, here come this dog after me, and I hollered, "God, please help." Next time I woke up, it was 7 days later.
Weeks after a dog attack killed Ramon Najera and injured 3 others, city leaders are presenting the Good Neighbor proposal. District 5 is where the attack happened, and Councilwoman Terry Castillo says the proposal has been a collaborative effort.
Moving with urgency around this issue is important for a number of reasons.
If passed, areas with a large number of 911, 311, and non-emergency calls will be addressed. Owners could be cited criminally in certain situations. ACS is also working with municipal courts to resolve dangerous dog cases.
Reading of the proposed ordinance is that the city of San Antonio would be operating within state law. We are essentially creating a program that's going to allow the sharing of information.
The proposal also mentions city staff have worked with state legislators to enhance dangerous dog enforcement. One of those is authored by State Senator Jose Menendez. The ordinance would lock up dangerous dogs and give protection to those who file paperwork.
In this particular case, people have received threats from the people involved. And so we don't want people to not report because they fear for their lives.
Mixon-Smith says she'd like to hear more on how the proposal will be enforced. Until then, she will be there for anyone impacted by a dog attack.
If God had been ready for me to go, then I would have gone. He had a purpose to leave me here.
Councilwoman Castillo tells me that they're set to vote on April 5th, and at that time, if it passes, it would immediately go into effect.
In the last 2 months, Animal Care Services says it has deemed an additional 54 dogs as dangerous. Now, to put that into perspective, that's almost half of all dogs with that designation who are being monitored.
He lunged at him first, and Max, the dog, went forward to try to protect my brother because that's his job. And then all of a sudden the dog, the pit bull, latched on to my Max.
Tina McCarty says she wishes her neighbors would have filed one of those dangerous dog reports and affidavits against one of the dogs in her complex before it attacked her brother and dog. Animal Care Services says reporting dangerous dogs is just the first step to make sure these animals don't cause harm.
Dangerous designations are lifelong, meaning that every single year of an animal's life, the pet owner is required to provide proof of compliance.
Some of the requirements to meet that compliance include keeping the dog in a secure enclosure, keeping the dog muzzled when outside, and having a special identification collar on the dog.
The next step was to attack a child.
After the attack, her brother filed the dangerous dog complaint and affidavit. The pit bull was euthanized. Animal Care Services says filing these reports can prevent similar attacks.
This has been a huge undertaking from ACS that's been accomplished by reassigning 2 supervisors to focus on the task of following up on non-compliant owners.
Animal Care Services says that once you have made a report of a dangerous dog, it's extremely important that you also follow an affidavit so they can launch an investigation.
The bill aimed at protecting you from dog attacks was met with some opposition at a committee hearing. Officials from Houston and Dallas saying it's subjective and repetitive.
It's denying due process. It's failing to provide a reasonable and clear standard to determine if the dog is a danger. Some of the language is vague.
The bill's sponsors say the goal is to identify dangerous dogs before people are hurt or killed.
I would hope that accountability can fall more on the dog owner rather than killing these dogs.
Attorney Eric Torberson specializes in dangerous dog cases. He says the bill could have major impacts in the courtroom. One of the changes would allow animal control officers to classify a dog as dangerous by observing and documenting their behavior.
We actually do enact dangerous dog investigations without a witness testimony. We would use the officer's testimony, which it sounds like there was an argument in San Antonio about who was supposed to do the affidavit.
State law says that any witnesses can file an affidavit and the animal control entity will investigate. That includes officers. San Antonio's municipal code says something similar, though ACS officials tell me it's much more common for victims and neighbors to witness dangerous behavior than it is for their staff. The agency is still working with the state to iron out this bill and others. One change Torberson will be watching is the anonymous affidavits.
I'm assuming that the witness would still have to testify. That would be crazy if they were not even required to testify and they could file anonymously. That would not work at all.
The bill will stay in committee for now, and Houston officials say they're happy to help shape it into something that works statewide. Torberson says he understands the urgency behind this bill, especially after the dog attack in San Antonio, but he urges lawmakers to take their time and make sure the end result of this is something that works for all communities in Texas.
New this morning, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has vetoed a dangerous dog bill introduced after the mauling of an elderly man in San Antonio.
Well, this is a story that we have been following for months now. 81-year-old Ramon Najera and his wife attacked by 3 dogs in February. Firefighters had to use pickaxes to try and get the dogs away from the couple. Fox San Antonio's Jordan Elder is live now with why Governor Abbott says the bill was shot down.
That's right. Governor Abbott wrote in a veto proclamation that Texas's dangerous dog laws are already strong enough and that the justice system needs to be able to do its job. So in that proclamation, Abbott points out there have already been felony arrests made in this San Antonio case. The dog's 2 owners now charged with injury to an elderly person and a dangerous dog attack resulting in death. All of the dogs involved in that attack have been euthanized. Abbott says, quote, "The justice system should be allowed to work without the overcriminalization found in this bill." Now, it would have increased penalties for owners after a dog attack and allowed animal control agencies to start investigations into dangerous dogs without a victim affidavit filed. Najera's family members were polling for this bill. This is his grandson speaking about it in a committee hearing back in April.
I do believe that had this bill been enacted prior to this event or many other events that I've heard of over these past couple months, is that he would be alive today.
The city of San Antonio's Animal Care Services was also in support of the bill. A spokesperson told us last month that it would help them hold pet owners accountable. Abbott ended the proclamation by saying he does want to work with Representative Campos, who filed the bill from San Antonio, about other ways to potentially prevent dog attacks before they happen.
For the second time this year, a victim has died after being attacked by dogs. And tonight we continue our investigation into why such attacks are happening across the city. In February, 81-year-old Ramon Najera was mauled to death on the southwest side. It led to policy changes at the city level, higher penalties for people whose dogs are involved in attacks. But on September 5th, it happened again. 2 dogs escaped their backyard on Heidelberg Street, one of them severely injuring 47-year-old Paul Anthony Striegel Jr. His abdomen and both of his arms were mangled in the attack. Police are still investigating the tragedy, but News 4 has learned that Striegel passed away over the weekend. The News 4 I-Team's Jordan Elder has been asking city officials for months what can be done to protect you from dangerous dog attacks. She joins us with the changes Striegel's loved ones are calling for tonight.
Striegel's roommate tells us it's hard to decide what justice truly looks like in this case. The dog involved in the attack has been euthanized and the owner was given 3 criminal citations. But he says the dangerous dog problem is still going on in his neighborhood. This weekend, Chuck Sutton lost a son-in-law, a roommate, a motorcycle riding mate, and a friend. 47-year-old Paul Anthony Striegel Jr. died after a brutal dog attack right here in their yard.
I was the first on the scene to see the injuries. I'll never be able to get that out of my...
An image that still haunts him nearly a month later.
To be taken out in such a way, it's heart-wrenching, it's gut-wrenching.
Sutton called police after their neighbor's dogs crawled under the fence and attacked Striegel. The injuries, some of the worst he's ever seen. Now, Sutton is grieving and still caring for Homie, Striegel's own beloved dog.
He still misses him. He walks into his room, looks for him.
Even though ACS handed his neighbor 3 criminal citations, dogs continue to get loose on Heidelberg Street.
And I stood here one morning, I couldn't get out my gate. There was 4 or 5 dogs here growling and barking at me.
So this is an ongoing issue then?
Yes.
There are several reports of aggressive dogs in this area, but ACS tells us they were not about the dog involved in this attack. Now, Sutton doesn't go anywhere without his gun, pleading for the city and the state to take more decisive action before someone else gets hurt.
If maybe I'd walked out just a little earlier.
Now, you might remember there was legislation filed this year hoping to increase the penalties for dog owners and make it easier to investigate these cases. However, Governor Greg Abbott vetoed that bill in June. We spoke with Representative Liz Campos, and she tells us she's trying to work with the governor on how they can include that dangerous dog legislation in the upcoming special session.
His office has committed to working with me. Hasn't given me a definite answer, but they realize that there's an issue. I'm going to file it this next coming week when we return.
That was Jordan Elder reporting, and according to SAPD and Animal Care Services, they say 3 criminal citations against the owner will be handled in municipal court. No further charges are expected. They said, quote, "This tragic case highlights the importance of daily responsible pet ownership. We are asking local pet owners to do their part by checking fences and gates regularly and keeping them in good repair."
Developing right now, a delivery driver is in serious condition after being attacked by a dog on the southwest side. Police say the 22-year-old driver was delivering a package from Amazon to a home on McNarney Street when an American Staffordshire jumped over the fence and pounced on him, attacking his face. Animal Care Services took the dog away for quarantine. Right now, no charges are filed against the dog's owner. An Amazon spokesperson released this statement to us, quote, "This is a horrible incident and we're grateful the driver was able to call for help and quickly receive medical attention. We're in contact with the delivery partner to make sure the driver has all the support needed as he recovers."
Trey Rodriguez shows us his bandages and more than 20 stitches. The 22-year-old says they're stark reminders of the horror he lived through yesterday morning.
Still trying to find things to do to get it off my mind. I just saw so much blood
Like, it was all over my shirt, all over my arms, all over my shorts, my legs.
An hour into his Amazon delivery shift, Rodriguez was dropping off a package when he saw a beware of dog sign.
And I already knew, like, okay, I gotta be cautious.
Since a signature was needed, Rodriguez waited for someone to come outside before getting out of his vehicle.
I was walking over there, I was making sure that it was the right person, it was the right address. And then as I'm looking up, I just see a dog just already like lunging over.
Each minute after, he calls a fight for survival. Rodriguez shared these photos showing the aftermath of the brutal dog attack.
I'm sure there were so many thoughts just running through your mind.
I really felt like I was gonna die. It looked like he was literally trying to kill me.
This is the latest dog attack San Antonio has seen so far this year, several resulting in devastating injuries, one claiming the life of 81-year-old Ramon Najera. Animal Care Services Director Shannon Sims says when this happened, they immediately looked into the animal.
Right now, just based on the 311 data that ACS has, we don't see an established history.
Sims says the owner surrendered the dog to ACS and it was put down. He explains even without an incident history, controlling your pet is your duty.
If it bites someone, we are ultimately going to hold you responsible because you are the responsible party in the eyes of the law.
So what kind of justice would you like to see moving forward so that no one ever has to experience this?
The justice that I really want is for homeowners to be better about certain dogs like this, or even any dog. They need to be better. Be treating your dogs better. Be making sure that they're not going to attack somebody.
Rodriguez says he does plan to return to work when he's able to do so. Amazon is covering the cost of his stitches and medicines, but not the upcoming plastic surgery he says he needs. And because he's a contracted driver, he doesn't have insurance through Amazon. So his family started a GoFundMe. You can find that link on our website.
The Najera family told me that dog attacks weren't an issue that they were really aware of. Of course, they miss their father, their grandfather, but they also want what happened to him to be an alarm bell for other families.
Horrific scene, horrific for the people that experienced this.
The fatal attack on Depla Street left a hole in the Najera family that can't be filled.
There's a lot of firsts this year, a lot of firsts without my dad.
But now they're using their voices for change.
My father lived protecting his country, and he died protecting his loved one.
At the state level, Ramon Najera and other members of his family advocated for the bill that would have allowed anonymous reporting about bites and attacks and given ACS more power to investigate these cases.
It was, devastating that we didn't get it passed.
The governor vetoed that bill, but Raymond and lawmakers say they'll keep fighting for it.
It's just really out of control and something needs to be done.
Change doesn't come easily, I guess, in the politics. And I'm hoping that we could come together as a community.
Here in San Antonio, do you think that the city has done enough?
They've taken some small steps. I think they've been reactive to what happened to my father, but there's a lot that needs to be done.
He says there needs to be better notification about dangerous dogs in your area, maybe a hotline for ACS, and lots of information about consequences. His message for you?
Keep reporting on loose dogs and reporting on dogs that possibly could be dangerous in your neighborhood.
Raymond says his family knows better than anyone. It could save lives. For the News 4i team, I'm Jordan Elder.
We dig deeper into new ideas to protect you from loose and dangerous dogs. We know people often don't report these issues for fear of retaliation.
And so, to avoid awkward confrontations with your neighbor, city leaders are proposing a new way around that. The I-Team's Jordan Elder explains how that would work.
You want the city to investigate a potentially dangerous or aggressive dog, you have to fill out one of these affidavits, and it has to have your name. There's a new proposal, though, that would allow you to use a pseudonym or a fictitious name instead.
We must act now to reduce the chance of further attacks.
Councilwoman Marina Alderete-Vito introduced new policies this week about loose and dangerous dogs, including one that would allow you to report to ACS using a pseudonym. This all centers around the fear of retaliation.
In the past, we have heard that neighbors have been threatened by the owners of these dangerous dogs.
We have to protect these individuals.
We saw similar efforts at the state level last year.
State Senator Jose Menendez and State Representative Liz Campos each introduced legislation that, among other measures, would have allowed anonymous affidavits, no names included at all.
And unfortunately, Governor Abbott vetoed it.
Do you expect similar pushback to the pseudonym program?
Yeah, so we met actually with Senator Menendez and talked about why some of the legislation at the state level failed, and also too had the conversation of what could we do here locally at the municipal level to get things through. And part of that was the pseudonym program.
Gavito says we have to look at every solution possible, and this might be more widely accepted than anonymous affidavits. Other council members say this could be big for public safety.
Maybe we'll have more people reporting because they're not worried so much about retaliation from a neighbor.
Both state leaders say it's important to keep addressing this issue, from the paperwork to the pet ownership standards.
The fact of the matter is we need to do something to help our community now. We cannot keep waiting.
For the News 4i team, I'm Jordan Elder.